Hey, welcome back. This is Jennifer, and this is the Dwelling Richly Bible Study, where we love God with heart, soul, mind, and strength, and we let the Word of Christ dwell in us richly. We are in Lesson 4, and this is Day 6 of our study through Esther. Really been enjoying this time with you. If you haven't already, said hi and left a comment as you're listening through or watching the videos on YouTube or Facebook or the Dwelling Richly podcast, today's a great day to say hi. Hit that subscribe button and hit a like button, share it with your friends, and let everyone know you're enjoying this study. Maybe share with me. Let me know what you're learning and enjoying as well. Let's go ahead into our study today. We'll open right now with a word of prayer, and then we'll keep on going. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for our time together today. Thank you for the study before us and all the studies behind that we've learned so much. I pray that you would be honored and blessed in our time today. I pray that we would be a blessing to one another, Lord, as we learn more about you and your word and draw closer to your character. And Lord, help us to understand what you have us to learn today in your study. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, let's go ahead on over to the lesson page. This is over on the Faithful and Fears. This is over on the Jennifer Richmond website, jenniferrichmond.com, jennifergrichmond.com. And you can go ahead and find the lessons there, easy to print off. And then you can follow along with us as we do them together. As always, we begin with prayer, and then we get into our checklist. And our first on our list is to write and memorize the word. We are memorizing Psalm 42. Let's read together Psalm 42, verses 7 and 8 today. Deep calls to deep at the roar of your waterfalls. All your breakers and your waves have gone over me. By day, the Lord commands his steadfast love, and at night, his song is with me, a prayer to the God of my life. How are you doing on memorizing that so far? Are you getting better? Are you getting the whole roll of it? And maybe you can even say now verses 1 through 8. I'm almost there myself, not quite. I'll have to work on that some more. All right, let's head over to our lesson. Check that. We've done that, and maybe you need to hit the pause button and take some time to write that into your lesson page. For our reading today, we are in Esther 2, 5 through 18, and then we're going to also read a portion out of Daniel chapter 1. Really interesting stuff there. But let's head first over to Esther 2. I'm going to read out of the ESV version again, verses 5 through 18. Now there was a Jew in Susa, the citadel, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjaminite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem among the captives carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had carried away. He was bringing up Hadassah, that is Esther, the daughter of his uncle, for she had neither father nor mother. The young woman had a beautiful figure and was lovely to look at, and when her father and her mother died, Mordecai took her as her own daughter. So when the king's order and his edict were proclaimed, and when many young women were gathered in Susa, the citadel, in custody of Hegai, Esther also was taken into the king's palace and put in custody of Hegai, who had charge of the women. And the young women pleased him and won his favor. And he quickly provided her with their cosmetics and her portion of food, and with 7 chosen young women from the king's palace, and advanced her and her young women to the best place in the harem. Esther had not made known her people or kindred, for Mordecai had commanded her not to make it known. And every day Mordecai walked in front of the court of the harem to learn how Esther was and what was happening to her. Now, when the turn came for each young woman to go into King Ahasuerus, after being 12 months under the regulations for the women, since this was the regular period of their beautifying, 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with spices and ointments for women, when the young woman went into the king in this way, she was given whatever she desired to take with her from the harem to the king's palace. In the evening, she would go in. In the morning, she would return to the second harem in custody of Shashgaz, the king's eunuch, who was in charge of the concubines. She would not go into the king again unless the king delighted in her and she was summoned by name. When the turn came for Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her as her own daughter to go into the king, she asked for nothing except what Hegai, the king's eunuch, who had charge of the women, advised. Now Esther was winning favor in the eyes of all who saw her, And when Esther was taken to the king Ahasuerus into his royal palace in the 10th month, which is the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign, the king loved Esther more than all the women, and she won grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. Then the king gave a great feast for all his officials and servants. It was Esther's feast. He also granted a remission of taxes to the provinces and gave gifts with royal generosity. Wow, that's a lot, right? So what a turn. What an amazing shift that's happened. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the details of this another day, not today, I don't think, but there's just a lot going on in this passage. We'll get into a lot of it, of course, in our study. Now, from here, I want to also read a background passage. This is from Daniel chapter 1, verses 1 through 21, and this will help us to understand some of the other things that are coming up in our reading. So let's go ahead and read that. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, and Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. Maybe you recognize his name from the introduction to this lesson. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand with some of the vessels of the house of God. And he brought them to the land of Shinar, to the house of God, of his God, and placed the vessels in the treasury of his God. Then the king commanded Aphanaz, his chief eunuch, to bring some of the people of Israel, both of the royal family and of the nobility, youths without blemish, of good appearance and skillful in all wisdom, endowed with knowledge, understanding, learning, and competent to stand in the king's palace, and to teach them the literature and language of the Chaldeans. The king assigned them a daily portion of the food that the king ate and of the wine that he drank. They were to be educated for 3 years, and at the end of that time, they were to stand before the king. Among these were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah of the tribe of Judah. And the chief of the eunuchs gave them names. Daniel he called Belteshazzar. Hananiah he called Shadrach. Mishael he called Meshach. And Azariah he called Abednego. But Daniel resolved that he would not defile himself with the king's food or with the wine that he drank. Therefore, he asked the chief of the eunuchs to allow him not to defile himself. And God gave Daniel favor and compassion in the sight of the chiefs and the eunuchs. And the chief of the eunuchs said to Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who assigned your food and your drink. For why should he see that you were in worse condition than the youths who are of your own age? So you would endanger my head with the king. Then Daniel said to the steward, whom the chief of the eunuchs had assigned over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, test your servants for 10 days. Let us be given vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then let our appearance and the appearance of the youths who eat the king's food be observed by you, and deal with your servants according to what you see. So he listened to them in this matter and tested them for 10 days. At the end of 10 days, it was seen that they were better in appearance and fatter in flesh than all the youths who ate the king's food. So the steward took away their food and the wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables. As for these 4 youths, God gave them learning and skill and all wisdom and literature, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. At the end of the time, when the king had commanded that they should be brought in, the chief of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king spoke with them, and among all of them, none was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore, they stood before the king, and in every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters that were in his kingdom. And Daniel was there until the 1st year of King Cyrus. All right, lots of background here for today. I want you to understand that before we move into our lesson. So you can check that off your list. Good job today. All right, let's meet Mordecai. What is Mordecai's nationality? And list his genealogy. Let's go back over here to the beginning of this passage. And there we go. And now there was a Jew in Susa, so that's his nationality, whose name was Mordecai, and here's his genealogy. Son of Jair, son of Shammai, son of Kish, a Benjaminite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem among the captives, carried away with Jeconiah. He's not related to Jeconiah, but he's just carried away with him. Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had carried away. Are you seeing the connection? All right, we just read from Daniel. That's exactly what happened here. His whole family before him not him personally, he wasn't born yet. He would have been over 100 years old had he been born. Was carried away from Jerusalem as a captive over to Babylon. I mean, I guess he could have been born. Maybe he lived to a ripe old age, but I doubt it. It's just my personal thoughts on that. All right. So the narrator includes fascinating and essential information about Mordecai's ancestry. What extra information does the narrator provide about Mordecai's great-grandfather, Kish? All right. So he says Kish, a what? That's right, a Benjaminite. Highlight that. Oops, sorry. Hop back over to the correct page there. He reminds everybody that Mordecai's great-grandfather was a Benjaminite. This Kish, a Benjaminite, he adds that in. How did Mordecai end up in Susa? Well, he's part of the family that was carried away. They left during the reign of the king, and Nebuchadnezzar had sacked Jerusalem, basically, and sends them all over to Babylon. Look up Kish and Jeconiah, otherwise known as Jehoiakim, in your concordance online or a good old-fashioned book and write details. Be sure to hit 1 Samuel 9, 1 through 2 in your concordance adventure. All right, here we go. I went ahead and lit this up with some hits from Bible Gateway, just searching Kish and Jeconiah. So lots of stuff on Kish. Look at this. From Joshua, Judges, even all the way to Acts, we see this because Kish was the father of Saul, and Ner the father of Abner, blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's not the Acts one. Where's the Acts one? I wanted to show you that one also. I think it relates. Yeah, they asked for a king. God gave them Saul, the son of Kish, a man of the tribe of Benjamin, for 40 years. So this is just this retelling account of what happens here. But take a look at Joshua 2. Oh, no, not Kishon. We don't want that. We want just straight out Kish. 1 Samuel. Kish, here we go. Saul's chosen to be king. And this is the part that I wanted to make sure you hit, which is 1 Samuel 9, 1 through 2. So let's just go ahead and read that. Back over here. There was a man of Benjamin whose name was Kish. Now, Benjamin's the main tribe. We have Abraham, gave birth to Isaac, gave birth to Jacob. Jacob fathers the 12 tribes of Israel, and Benjamin's one of those. He was the youngest son that was born after Joseph. And Joseph was the one that was sold into slavery into Egypt. Joseph has two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, and then during his stay in Egypt and all that. And then he comes back, and Benjamin's the other younger son. All right. So there was this man of Benjamin whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, son of Zeror, son of Bechorath, son of Aphiah, a Benjamite, a man of wealth, very wealthy tribe there. Now the donkeys of Kish, Saul's father, were lost. Oh, let's go ahead and read this in context. I want you to see 1 Samuel 9, 1 through 2. And he had a son whose name was Saul. There he is, a handsome young man who was not a man among the people of Israel, more handsome than he. From his shoulders upward, he was taller than any of the people. And so we get a little more information about Saul and these donkeys, and we don't need that for now. All right, so there's Kish. Let's do Jeconiah. And I did the same thing here. I lit up a search for you over on Bible Gateway, just literally searching on Jeconiah. We have a little name playing going on. Jehoiakim is also known as Jeconiah in the Bible, so that gets a little confusing sometimes. So Jeconiah, his son there, sons of Jeconiah, the captive, where he gets taken away. Esther, he gets mentioned here, Esther chapter 2, verse 6, carried away with Jeconiah, and here he is in Jeremiah. Now, don't forget that the book of Esther falls in between Ezra chapter 6 and 7, basically, and Jeremiah also is part of this account of the captivity and then the return back to Israel, return back to Jerusalem. So Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had taken into exile from Jerusalem Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim. That's why it's hard to keep them straight. There's a Jehoiakim, who's Jeconiah, and Jehoiakim. Anyway, confusing sometimes. Jeremiah 27:20. When he took exiles from Jerusalem to Babylon, Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim, and again with Jeconiah, basically he's being taken to captive. He's the king, bad king, and God punishes the nation, and up in comes Nebuchadnezzar to take them all away to Babylon. What can you learn about Mordecai's character from Esther 2:11? Let's go back to Esther 2:11. And every day Mordecai walked in front of the court of the harem to learn how Esther was and what was happening to her. What do we find out about Mordecai in this passage here? Well, he's a good guy. He cares for his cousin, who's been like a daughter to him, raised her like a daughter, and he's still looking out after her. He's getting as close as he possibly can, knowing that she is up and away in the king's harem, and who knows what's going to happen. But we do. Ooh, just like the other day, man. Sometimes those yawns just like, I'm going to take you captive, like Nebuchadnezzar is sweeping away the nations. I feel like a yawn just took me captive there for a moment. All right. I know I'm weird. What can you learn? He's about his character. He's loving. He's kind. He's a good caretaker. He is not gonna just say, oh well, you're in the harem. He's responsible for her and he loves her a great deal. All right. Excuse me. Let's meet Hadassah. That is Esther. That's literally how it says it in the word. What do we learn about Esther from chapter 2, 5-18? Oh my goodness. Let me get some water here. I'm sorry for coughing into your ears there, those of you who are listening. Especially with headphones in, I'm sure. I'll take a little swig of that, see if that helps. All right. In this passage about Esther, we see that she's beautiful in face and in figure. We see that she rises in favor. So there must be something lovely and winsome about her, not just her looks, but her character. The note here, she had not made known her people, for Mordecai commanded her not to make it known, so she's obedient to Mordecai, basically her father, right? She's obedient to him. She's brave, come on. She's in a harem that's going to get called into the king, and who knows what's going to happen to her in that, and this is very brave, and she's willing to do what it takes to honor Mordecai's request and to place herself in a position of jeopardy for a further position of power to help her people, to make sure her people have help. She's a woman of integrity and bravery to do what she's doing here. How is the meaning of Esther's Hebrew name significant to her story? Recall Mordecai's instructions to her. Well, let's take a look over here at the Hebrew language. Otherwise, you're not going to know how to answer this question unless you do a little research on your own, which I always encourage you to do. Do some research. Esther is the transliteration of the Persian word for star, from which Ishtar, the Persian goddess of love and war, is thought to be connected. Esther's Hebrew name is Hadassah, which means myrtle, a tree common in Israel and used in the Feast of Booths. So this is one of the feasts that's listed in Leviticus 23. You can look that up. Additionally, Hadassah means hidden. It means hidden or secret. So how is the meaning of Esther's Hebrew name significant to her story? Recall Mordecai's instructions to her in chapter 2, verse 10. Well, she's hidden. She's not revealing. She's not telling everybody she's a Jew. She's keeping her identity a secret. And think about it this way. What's the first thing you do when you meet somebody and you're just trying to get to know them? And here's all these women in this harem. What's your name? Esther. Where are you from? Susa. Who are your people? Persia and Susa in particular, but Persia in general, was a metropolitan melting pot, really. You remember that the Persian Empire extended to 127 provinces. All the nationalities, all the people, from Turkey to India, all were in there. And Persia was known as a relatively tolerant society. They weren't out persecuting people, conquering people, yeah. But once they had, they did not force assimilation necessarily to Persian ways as much as maybe you might think. And so maybe people were curious, where are you from? Who are your people? Because people would keep to their customs and keep to their ways and maybe even keep to their clothing and their dress. But there was nothing about Esther that would have revealed her Jewish heritage. Oh my goodness. I should have grabbed a cough drop or something before I started today. So very interesting about that. So Esther's life as a woman in exile parallels the lives of two other significant people of God. Note any similarities in the following accounts. Let's take a look at Genesis 41, 37 through 57. Page not found, it's telling me. What did I do? Oh, that's interesting. Let's go ahead and I'll just copy and paste that over into Bible Gateway. Drop it up over into here. See if that'll cooperate with me, all right? There we go. This proposal pleased Pharaoh and all of his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find a man like this in whom the Spirit of God? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has shown you all there is none so discerning and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only as regards to the throne, I will be greater to you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I've set you all over the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh took a signet ring from his hand, put it on Joseph's hand, and clothed him in garments of fine linen, put a gold chain about his neck, and made him ride in his second chariot. And they called out before him, bow the knee. Thus he set him over all the land of Egypt. Moreover, Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without your consent, no one shall lift up a hand or a foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphanath-Paneah, and he gave him in marriage Asenath, daughter of Potiphar's priest of On. So Joseph went out over the land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and Joseph went out over the presence of Pharaoh and went through all the land of Egypt. During the 7 plentiful years, the earth produced abundantly, and he gathered up all the food of these 7 years, which occurred in the land of Egypt, and put the food in the cities. He put in every city the food from the fields around it, and Joseph stored up grain in great abundance, like the sand of the sea, until he ceased to measure it, for it could not be measured. Before the year of famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph. Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bore them to him. Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for he said, God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's house. The name of the second he called Ephraim, for God has made me fruitful in my land of affliction. The 7 years of plenty that occurred in the land of Egypt came to the end, and the 7 years of famine began to come. As Joseph has said, there was a famine in all the lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. When all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Pharaoh said to the Egyptians, go to Joseph. What he says to you, do. So when the famine had spread over all the land, Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe in the land of Egypt. Moreover, all the earth came to Egypt to Joseph to bring grain, because the famine was severe over all the earth. All right, so we get this account of Joseph. And we also have in Daniel, which we've previously read, good job, the account of Daniel, who also rises to power and favor, right? And that's what I want us to see. Esther's life as a woman in exiles mirrors the life of Joseph and Daniel, her predecessors, and they're in other lands. Daniel, of course, is in Babylon, and near to where Esther is now, although he's not in the picture at this point. Genesis is way, way, way back, and this is Joseph, and he's in the land of Egypt. So they're out of their own land, similarity. They rise to a position of power, similarity, and they grow in favor in the land that they are in because of their honorable and honoring ways. What did the king do in honor of his new queen? Take a look at what it says here in the last portion, verse 18. He also granted a remission of taxes to the provinces and gave gifts with royal generosity. It's an interesting little side note there. He's so excited. No one has to be taxed, and everyone gets gifts in the blessing of the king. Enter the month and year of King Ahasuerus' reign, which is listed in 2:16 in your timeline if you haven't done that already. That's back on page 8. So maybe you skipped over that part, but go ahead and enter that in right now since it's listed there for us. Okay, let's just go ahead and close, and I will read the final, my final thoughts on this today. Among the people in all the provinces in this ancient episode of Persia's Got Talent are the people of God, voluntary exiles. The Jews were allowed to leave the region by order of the Babylonian king Cyrus. However, hundreds of thousands had remained. Mordecai's family was among them. It's now been over 100 years since the return to Jerusalem, and little do Esther and Mordecai know that while ideally their ancestors should have returned joyfully to Jerusalem, these remnants will soon have their joy turned to terror when the next scene of this account unfolds. For now, we have a happy king and a new queen, enjoying, for a time, peace and favor, all because of a little orphan girl under the loving guidance of a wise cousin has grown to become the most gracious and favored in all the land. A true Cinderella story, if ever there was one, right? For now. And the plot thickens as we move forward in the story, right? All right. Great to be with you. As always, don't forget to like and share. Tell everyone you're enjoying the Bible study, which I assume, of course, that you are enjoying. And leave a comment. Tell me what you think about today's study as well. Our episode of Persia's Got Talent, where Esther arises to the top. All right. As always, know that you are loved and prayed for, and I'll see you again at our next get together. Bye-bye for now.